Hello, and welcome again to RV Adventures the Millers. So, here in our 38 DBQ, we got ours with the table and the 4 chairs. Biggest problem is that when we camp, there's always going to be probably at least 5 of us: me, my husband, daughter, and then 2 grandkids. Well, that doesn't really help you out that much when you've only got 4 chairs. And even if we got another chair and just stuck it here, there's not enough room here to really put like another plate and stuff. So we kind of batted around the idea of what to do. Should we put down make a leaf that will drop down like this, but then that kind of gets in the way too. And how do you secure it so it's not flopping around while you're driving? So instead, what we figured out is we're going to get rid of this whole table, because the one that we're going to use, you can't match the color or anything of it. But we're going to create a table just like you probably have with your dining room table, where you can spread it open and stick a leaf inside of it. And so we're still going to use the same base, but we got these on the internet, of course. And so what we're going to do is the side that is against the wall will stay that, and we will pull this side out, so the one side will stay and then the other side will open. I guess it looks like this. So this side will stay and this side will open out to get our full length. And we have 2 of these, so there'll be one on each side underneath the table. So, and we can take the leaf out, we can store it, we can store the extra chair, but this also gives us the ability to put 2 extra chairs, so we can have 6 people if we wanted to. So we bought a big piece of pine, and we're going to do some work on that, and we'll show you what we got going on.
So here we have our piece of pine. Picked this up at Menards. It's 60 inches long and 30 inches wide. Now the table that's in there is only 28 inches wide, but I figure, another inch on each side, it's really not going to make that big of a difference in the area. So I'm just going to leave this at 30 inches wide. It does come, it's completely square. So we're going to radius the corners. I've already marked those, and I found that the head of the old mag light there was exactly the radius of the existing table. So I could mark that corner and get it rough cut, and then I'll use an orbital sander to smooth that up and make it a nice round edge. So what we're going to end up doing is this end of the table, I'm going to cut it off here at 24 inches, and then I'm going to cut 14 inches off of this end. That will leave me a section of 22 inches out of the middle, and that's going to be my leaf. So when the table, we're not using the leaf, it'll go together and it will be the original 38-inch table, and we'll be able to open it up and drop the leaf in, and we'll have the full 60-inch table. Once the leaf is in there, I'm going to make an add-a leg that will go up under the very end to support the extra length of the table that will be added. Where the pedestal is at, adding that much weight out on the end away from that pedestal would eventually break it off. So we will have to have support out here under the fly end of this when we open it up. So I'm going to do some sanding on this, and we'll get it cut, and we'll show you the product before we actually go to stain it. So here I have my 5-inch orbital sander. I have a 150 grit on here, and I'm going to use this to clean up these radius edges and make them nice and smooth and flowing around here. And then we're going to take a 3/8 roundover bit and a router, and we're going to put that 3/8 radius all the way around the top, knock this edge off and make it a nice round edge. We'll be finishing off with a 220 grit sandpaper on this surface to get it nice and smooth. It's pretty nice now, but it can be a little bit better. And once we get that sanded, we'll cut our pieces out, and and we'll start to do some staining. And so here it goes. Okay, so we've got our router rigged up here with our 3/8 round over radius bit, and we used a 2x4 here. This is our sacrifice piece, and we've got our setting where we want it, and now we're going to move on and do the edge of our table. And I'm going to start at the end that's going to be against the wall in case I screw something up it won't look. Okay, we've got our, we've done a little sanding here, and before we go any further we're going to actually cut our table into the 3 sections, and I'm using a 4-foot level here as a straight edge clamped. This is really too big to get onto a table saw and efficiently be able to try to maintain a good cut on it. So I'm going to keep the guide of the saw right up against this this level, and I'm going to cut this, and this will be the front end of the table. Then we'll cut our center section out, and I just put a new blade in here. I got a really nice finished plywood, and the face surface is facing downward. The reason why you want the face, what will end up being the top of the table, facing down when you're cutting is because the circular saw turns and it drags up through the wood. So there's a chance, because it comes up, it will splinter this edge here, which will be the bottom. I don't care about that. So by doing this, it's going to be pulling up through the wood, and hopefully we'll minimize any splintering on the face side. So we'll get her cut into the pieces, and we'll continue from there. So we've got our tabletop. We've cut our top into our 3 pieces. We've got a 24-inch piece, a 14-inch piece, and a 22-inch leaf. So now we're going to put these pins in. These are alignment pins. So there's 2 pieces. There's one pin that sticks out of the top, and then there's a receiver that goes into the opposite side. So when the table slides together, these pins align, and that keeps your table top smooth and level, so it doesn't bow or twist or anything. So we're going to use a dowel jig to drill the holes in the leading edge of this tabletop, so we can drive these pins up in there. And a dowel jig is just simply a device that allows you to put it on here and lock it in place, and it will center the dowel hole up in your leading edge of your wood. So if you're trying to do it by freehand, you probably screw it up and wouldn't get a good alignment. So hopefully we can reproduce 6 of these holes, 3 on here and then 3 on the other one, so to make our top align when it closes shut. So we'll see what happens. So here I've used this fancy joint mate dowel pin jig, and we've drilled 3 holes across through here. So here's our alignment pins, and now we've got these little guys here, which are the receiver holes, liners, that we will be putting into the opposite side, and hopefully this is going to line up. And here we go, stain. Remember, we're trying to simulate and match the existing color of the old tabletop. This is the underside of the tabletop, so this is our test board. So if it doesn't do what we want, we can
Try something
try
different.
something different.
Try again.
So this is a espresso satin poly shade. So it has the polyurethane and the stain all in one. We'll get back to this when we've determined color match.
So I know in the last clip I told you that we were going to use a stain that had poly in it, and that was a disaster as far as I was concerned. I didn't like the sheen on it. It was really splotchy, and I didn't like the way that it was covering. So instead we went back and I got just a regular stain and a gloss poly, and I did both sides of it, 3 coats each. It didn't quite come out as perfect as I wanted, but it is what it is. Then I went back with 5 coats of poly. I tried with 3 and I was dissatisfied and kept trying to touch it up, and that just screwed it up completely. So then Dwayne went back and did the 4th coat, and it looked worse than my 3rd coat. So we sanded it yet again, and we did a 5th coat, which I thought was just about perfect. And Dwayne messed up the 5th coat, but we weren't doing it anymore. So we found that after we cut the pieces and we were doing everything, that it was starting to do a bow. This piece here was starting to bow a little bit. So he tried taking some clamps and clamping it down, and it left smudges, which aren't coming off, and I'm not redoing it another time. So we had already talked about that we were going to do the pins in the middle. So the pins go into the grooves, and we have pins also in the leaf. So this is the receiving end, of course, and that is the pin end. So we're gonna stick it together here. The guides on the bottom, they're a little tight. So they're designed to angle up so that when you put it together, it keeps it tight, but it's tight. And I think it's because of the bow, and they did get some poly on them. So we put a little bit of wax on them, and we're hoping that over time that it will ease up and maybe be a little easier to get together. As you see, we put it together, and then we're gonna flip it over here. And these are the rails underneath. So these are the rails that extended out. This piece here came off of our original, this is our original table. So those black rails around are the ones that were on here. So we reused those. They're cut obviously here so that the table can slide apart. And then these are the tracks. We also put these locking things underneath so that when it closes, it will stay closed and not come apart. And we've got these here, and we also have a set of them on the leaf. As you see, the leaf has these guides on it also. And so this end here is going to be the one that is stationary against the wall. So when we pull it apart, you can see it opens all the way out. And so we're going to flip it back over again and show you what it looks like with the leaf in it. And the wax all over it. That's that end, and lifting. There we go. And so that is the whole thing together. plus the wax. But all in all, I don't think it turned out too bad. So we still, and then you can still lock the pins underneath. We still, the next part of it is we're going to put the existing pedestal off the original table will go under here. And then we will have a kickstand leg that attaches under here, because obviously when this is extended all the way out, it is going to be too heavy this way. And we definitely don't, oh, bugs, ratcheting up from the floor. So, more to come.
Table, 5 coats of polyurethane, and I've taken a banister post, 3x3, and did a little modification to it. Added some plastic feet to the bottom so it doesn't scuff up the floor, and I notched it, and I put in a couple lag to quarter 20 threaded studs through there, and also added a steel backer plate up here to hold this temporary leg in place. And we're only using the temporary leg while the table is extended. Once it's the leaf is removed and it's retracted to its original position, the temporary leg here in the front is not needed at that point. So anytime we pull it out, we'll pop this leg in here. And to just recap, the original table is 38 inches wide, and the new table with the leaf in it is 60 inches out to here. And as you can see, there's still room to slide through and get around the table. And this does allow seating for 6 chairs.
Hi. So here's our table all closed up, just held up by the original pedestal. Like we said, you really only need the extra support when we've got it fully open. So for storage, when we're not using the leaf, we put it back here. So I'm going to put either a towel or a piece of felt, something behind it so it's not rubbing, but it's just 2 command hooks and a bungee across, keep it secure while we're traveling. And then for the post itself, this area right here really isn't being used. It doesn't affect opening the refrigerator at all, or the doors. We're actually just going to put some Velcro and stick it right there so it's out of the way when it's not being used. So there is our entire project for doing the table. I kind of wish at the end that I just spray painted this black instead of spend so much time doing the poly and stuff, but it is what it is now. So hope this helps you all. Anybody else that is wanting to make a larger table, has a bigger family like us, trying to figure out what to do. Thanks for watching. Click like and subscribe.